Hi. So I'm talking with QMOG Vlogs. I hope that's how you say it. We're talking about separation, group nationalism. I want to clear a few things up because some commentators are a little bit confused. What I'm talking about is where a group can opt out of the system, set up their own nation, if you want to call it that, probably more like a mini-state or something, where they have a high degree of autonomy. So I'm not talking about just living with people you like. A lot of commentators have missed the point. They're saying you can already associate and live with who you want. Yeah, I know that. But what I'm talking about is having a much higher degree of autonomy. Legislation, tax, education, fiscal policy, etc. Yeah, this idea was big during the civil rights movement, black nationalism. But Martin Luther King went the other way and integration won the day, and that's how it's gone now. I'm not just advocating this for black groups, I'm advocating it for all groups. Basically, you shouldn't be held to ransom by the system. Just like we have competing companies, there should be competing body politics. The second thing I want to say, I'm calling this separation or group nationalism, not segregation. Because segregation makes us think of pre-civil rights America, and that's not what I'm advocating. What you had there was a separation of persons, but not a separation of powers. So the black people were separated out from the white people, but the white people still had all the power. I'm advocating the separation of powers as well as people on a self-selecting basis. Yeah. So QMOG Vlog asked about practicalities. How can the utopian dream be implemented? She raises two main points. First point, how are we going to decide who gets to go where? How black do you have to be to live in black land? How are we going to decide that? Well, the short answer is we're not. There is no central control. The groups need to define for themselves who's in and who's out. It has to be that way. That's the whole point. And if a group you want to belong to says, no, you can't come in, well, I guess that's too bad. That's their choice. The whole idea is that groups, self-defined groups, can set up their own states. But it wouldn't be that big a deal. Most people would carry on living in mainstream, mixed, democratic, capitalist society. Probably 70% of people are fairly happy, I think, the way things are now. I wouldn't move. And you know, most people wouldn't move. I just think people should be allowed to totally opt out and set up their own society if they choose to do that. The second issue you raised was the second practicality. How would land allocation work? Well, obviously that would be tricky. I guess the amount of land would have to be commensurate with the number of people in the group. I can't really say more than that. The devil's in the details. But don't forget, this isn't a new thing. Not in Europe anyway. After each World War, we completely redrew the map. And the UN does this all over the world from time to time. So, tricky problem, but nothing new. Could you have different areas, different groups falling out and not trading? Yeah, I guess so. We have that now with countries all over the world. The Spanish and the UK have routine fishing disputes. The French and the English have farming disputes. That's just life, I guess. So yeah, I mean, these are issues, but there's nothing in this plan, there's nothing in what I'm advocating that's setting any new precedents. There's nothing new here. The majority of the country would remain as it is. I'm not suggesting carving up the whole country. I'm like I said, 70% of people are probably happy with their lives right now. I think that's probably all I can say on that. You mentioned a few, those were your main 2 points. You mentioned a few other things. You talked a little bit about how African Americans arrived in America, slave ships, so forth. I'm aware of that. If anything, I think that you're agreeing with me. I think that strengthens their claim. You know, that strengthens the claim to black nationalism. What have they got at the moment with integration, you know, positive discrimination, a welfare check, sure start. I mean, that sucks. If I was black, I'd be asking for my money back, you know? Like, give me a nation, now. Yeah, so I don't think that takes anything away from what I'm saying. Jews and the Palestinians, yeah, that's fucked up. Yeah, that's a whole other video. India, yeah, British Empire, I'm familiar with that. The jewel in the crown, yeah, it didn't work out, you're right. But then, other British exit partitioning did work out. But we only remember, or we only hear about the things that don't work out. So, yeah, partitioning fails, but sometimes it works. And the UN do it all over the world at the moment. And remember, I'm talking about voluntary separation. This is people setting up their own show because they've just had enough of the mainstream system. The mainstream system is still going to be there if you want it, if you want to opt back in, if you like. So it's not an all or nothing thing that I'm advocating here. I know there are practical difficulties, it's fraught with difficulties, but I think it could be really exciting. The United States has amazing religious dynamism. Churches and belief systems spring up everywhere. Why not political systems? Okay, have a good one.